This is KYRS, Medical Lake Spokane, 88.1 and 92.3 FM. We're also streaming live at kyrs.org. We are doing another special program this morning. This is part 2 of Fact and Fiction about Being in Poverty. Our guests in the studio today are from the Orion Project, which is a new nonprofit that was just incorporated in December of 2014. And their main mission is to raise awareness about homelessness and other issues having to do with poverty. So thank you and welcome to our guests today. Today, we want to take your questions. What are your experiences about being in poverty? What are your worries, your perspectives? Maybe you haven't been in poverty before and you know that you don't quite understand what people in town are going through and you want a safe space to ask a question. We are your experts today. We can answer those questions. Or we're going to try to. We're going to do our best. And so you can call at any point in the next hour. The number here in the station is 509-747-3807. Once again, that's 509-747-3807. You can also write on the Orion Facebook as well, and you can just search the Orion Project, and it should come up. I think there might be another organization or two that come up in the search results, but it should be pretty clear once you find it. What maybe, Jesse, you could describe what the profile picture looks like.
It's just it says the Orion Project, Epic Advocacy, and there's a picture on the main page of a man that I met in Denver. Big smile, happiest person you're ever gonna meet, and
Yeah, so call in, write in. We want your questions, your experiences. Join this conversation about what it is like to be in poverty, what others can do to help, what's available here in town, what's not available. We're going to talk about all that today, especially SNAP, EBT food benefits, and panhandling. We wanted to talk more about that. We didn't really get to cover that as much as we wanted to 2 weeks ago, and then you may have heard us last week as well. We broadcast the show once again. So we'll start by going around. My name's Marie. I'm an AmeriCorps member who is serving at KYRS this year.
And I'm Jesse. I am the executive director of the Orion Project. I'm pretty excited to be here.
I'm Sarah Hopkins. I'm a volunteer with the Orion Project.
My name is Enrique Paz. I'm a volunteer with the Orion Project.
I'm Sue Lupert, and I'm a volunteer cook at different feeding programs around town, including Shalom, House of Charity, St. Anne's, and in Crosswalk.
Wow, thank you so much for being in the studio today. Let's start with food benefits. Does that sound like a good place to start? Maybe Sue, would you want to jump in there?
I've heard it said from people in poverty and homeless people that there is really no good reason to be hungry in Spokane. We don't do a great job with several things, housing, but we do a good job with food. There is a place in Spokane where you can eat each meal every day of the week. Some are not as convenient as others, but you can have dinner. We can have breakfast Monday through Thursday at United Central Methodist Church on 2nd and Howard. You can have dinner there on Mondays and Thursdays. You can have breakfast and lunch at House of Charity Tuesday through Saturday. And then there's others. You can eat if you need to.
Wanted to start off with explaining what SNAP is. I'm getting my information from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, an awesome website. This is where I'm getting my information primarily. SNAP, it's an acronym, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's formerly known as the Food Stamps Program. And for those of you who have never been on the program or we're not sure what it is, food stamps, this certain program, it helps supplement a family, or an individual's food budget. And in this day and age, we all know that, that food can be a very expensive part of your budget. And that's what SNAP is there for, is to help out, to kind of give a person, some leeway in handling their money a little better, and maybe paying their mortgage, or or their rent, or something else that's vitally needed. Based on the website, close to 70% of SNAP participants are families with children. More than 1/4 are in households with seniors of people with disabilities. I would like to also point out that who is ineligible per the program, and there's just so many rules to it. Most college students are ineligible. Certain legal immigrants are ineligible, and as of 2014, I'm not totally sure how much this has changed, but undocumented immigrants are also ineligible for SNAP. SNAP cannot be used to purchase alcoholic beverages, cigarettes, vitamin supplements, and non-food grocery items, along with hot foods. I do have something against the hot foods item. Based on the numbers that we were talking about as far as who is homeless and who are living on the streets, based on the food stamps program, okay, you can't buy hot food. It means prepared. But you can buy unprepared food items. You can buy vegetables, fruit. Okay, that's great. But where can they prepare their food? Where can they cook it? That's something that I think needs to be said.
I want to also add that one other thing that people cannot buy are hygiene products. Toilet paper, deodorant, toothpaste, and hygiene products that are desperately needed and very expensive. And people don't think about that. So, and you were talking about supplementing your food and being able to cook. Refrigeration is also a problem. Getting to the store to get your food. I actually did the food stamp challenge 3 years ago. Did it for a month, and I was able to come out at $4.27 a day, so it was a little over $1.50 per meal. It was not easy. I ate a lot of carrots. I ate a lot of popcorn for my protein. I had a hard-boiled egg a day. But if you don't have a place to refrigerate your eggs or to cook your eggs, where are you going to get that? And I realized my experience is nowhere near like living on this program, because I do have a car to get to the store, and I do have a refrigerator, and I do have a microwave and an oven and a stove.
Typically, a person who is eligible with no income, they are eligible to receive $189 in food benefits, and I think that kind of went up about $5 a month ago. But I'd like to ask the listeners, can you live off of $190 a month if you have no income? And that's just to put it in perspective. If you're looking for a job, you have no ID. This is something that I run into a lot. No cell phone, looking for a job, and you have $190. Is that going to last you a month without getting snacks and without getting junk food? I mean, let's face it, junk food it's cheap. It's cheap, readily available, and despite the nutritional requirements, or it's something big out there, and if you're going to survive, it's something you're going to have to accept.
And again, it does not require refrigeration or cooking. It's prepared. It's right there.
Non-perishable.
Non-perishable many times.
I've heard, especially from a few news outlets, that there are people out there who ask, well, why can't they get a gallon of milk? Why can't they, get something nice and cook for themselves again? You've got to stop, and you've got to think for yourself, think outside the box, and think about these people on the streets, or think about how rough it is to make ends meet.
Yeah, I just wanted to share, on the issue of preparing food, I was brought up in our family. Both my mom and my dad taught us how to cook. Whether you're a boy or a girl, you learned how to cook and how to clean. And, we weren't from a really high income family, and we needed to make our dollars stretch. And both of my parents came from families that needed to make our dollars stretch. And so they taught us ways to cook. You cook with your staples and you make things spread. You stretch the protein, with, starches and, potatoes and rice and beans and things like that. And I'm honestly, I'm going to sound not humble, but I can cook, and I can, I'm a magician with some fallout, the garbage casserole that my dad used to call it, whatever falls out of the
goulash.
Fridge. Yeah, you can make some awesome stuff with it. But you can't do that. I mean, what are you going to do with the excess? If I could get a great deal on a bag of potatoes or, or some tortillas, man, I can make burritos for a week, and I can eat, I can throw them in the freezer and, or the fridge and pull them out for lunch. It probably people wouldn't like, eating the same thing all the time, but I can make a buck stretch.
Yeah. If
I have a home with a refrigerator and a stove to cook on and an oven, and storage containers, we tend to not think about these things, until we're homeless, until we're living out of a bag on our back with a jacket that you don't necessarily want to carry around all the time. Food becomes it's just a totally different perspective, and I challenge people to think about how would you do that? How would you make that money stretch, knowing that you couldn't refrigerate, preserve, things like that, couldn't prepare the way you normally would, you don't have that, and immediately you go into sort of a backpacker mentality. A lot of people have been in the military and they get those little prepackaged foods, or you take things with you that you can cook on a camp stove, and certainly there is some of that, being
those
homeless.
Those are really expensive,
I
know.
though. Yeah, yeah. And
I mean,
certainly,
you can't
you
do that on your $189
right.
a month.
You can get some rice, you can get some beans, you can cook up some stuff that's pretty cheap, in your camp, but it's not, it's not convenient, and it's certainly where you're going to put, a 5-pound bag of beans, then you're going to carry it with you.
I'd like to add to that there was a friend of mine who brought this up, one of my many meetings, travel time. And I'll get into that here. Spokane is typically very generous. I will give you that. You have Shalom's, you have the Mission, you have HOC. They have all these awesome food programs, and thank you guys. We do appreciate it. But they're scattered across the city.
Yes, they are.
And when you have no transportation, and you can't even afford a $1.50 for the bus, travel time, you have to incorporate that in your meal times, and that takes a huge chunk of your time. Whereas you're still expected to look for a job, you're still expected to survive, find a place to sleep. So travel time was an interesting variable in my investigation into this. Also, I'd like to get into the negative connotations of this. I mean, I see all the time, including a few of my friends posting wrong memes. One in particular, I have posted on the Orion Project. One, it had said that it showed two pictures. One picture said, "Well, this is what I get, and I have a full-time job," and the fridge was like, it was bare. It was really bare. And then on the other side of the picture, it said, "Well, this is what other people get, mooching off of the government. The fridge was full of food." And I commented on that. And I've been on food benefits, and I know a lot of people who have been on food benefits. $190 does not go very far as what that meme said. Based on what I've seen, everything is hearsay. I don't see any evidence to say that well, people on food benefits, they're taking advantage of the system. Their fridges are full. They're always buying filet mignons. That's a big one. Lobster. I would tell you, and I tell everyone this. How do you know? Okay. Besides, the person that I saw, statistically, and the government is pretty quick to find the people who are taking advantage of the system. Okay, and they're really quick at prosecuting these individuals. I mean, seriously. I mean, do you not think that the government has this in mind and has not done a research project on this? The numbers say otherwise. Okay, let's get into the numbers here. Another negative thing that I've gone into is, the welfare benefit recipients, they're taking our entire budget. They're responsible for our budget shortfalls. But let me tell you something.
No.
Okay. Yes. All right. For one, let's go into the SNAP benefits. 92% of federal SNAP benefits spending is for the benefits itself. Okay. You have, for federal share of the state administration, 4.9% is taken for that. Food assistance in other territories, 2.7%. Support for food banks, 0.4%. And food distribution on Indian reservations is 0.1%. Again, I'm getting this on the Center of Budget and Policy Priorities. Let me turn my notes here. What do you think, Henry?
Well, my only experience with food benefits is when I was going through sort of a tumultuous time in my life with a domestic violence situation, when I had tried to reintegrate into my family home. My wife had applied for food benefits because I was out of the house, and that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize is most of the time food benefits, it's pretty hard to qualify for food benefits. If you're working, you're it's really hard to do. I had usually at least 2 jobs at the time, and coming back into the house, she was supposed to immediately report, okay, he's back in the house, and then her benefits were over. And the thing is, when we did that, they immediately said, well, okay, you guys no longer qualify. And we didn't make enough for to put food on the table. We didn't make enough. We were barely getting by with the 2 jobs, and that to me, it seems like maybe that should be extended into people who, that ceiling should be a little bit higher, because there are a lot of people, especially if you look at the poverty level, it's not easy to get by on that money. Whether you're getting it from an assistance program or from a job, poverty is poverty, and it's not easy to get by on that much. And I guess to the other thing is, the main goal here is to break preconceived notions about food stamps. I would agree and say that no one's living high on the hog on food stamps. No one is having caviar and clinking champagne glasses.
I would like to meet these people.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, if they're using food stamps to buy lobster and filet mignon, I got to know where you're getting this, unless it's like half off or special at Walmart.
Chinese import lobster.
What was the word that you used a couple weeks ago? Unemployment is
it's unenjoyment.
Unenjoyment.
Yeah.
I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, I've heard it a lot.
I found the numbers on the budget. I'm enjoying this just because, I love debate, and if anyone knows me on Facebook, it knows I am very opinionated, and you better know your numbers, because I deal with numbers, and more times than none, the truth hurts, and I've been schooled before. I'm pretty open with my ideas and my opinions, and they change over time. But the budget, though. Most of our budget goes towards defense, Social Security, and major health programs. All right, let's go over the numbers. Social Security, 24%. If there are any of you out there who think that you do not get Food subsidies. I mean, not food subsidies. Anything help from the government. I would challenge you to stop and think for a moment, because like I said, Social Security gets 24%, Medicaid, Medicare, CHIP, and marketplace subsidies 24%. Defense and international security assistance 18%, and then there we go. Benefits for federal retirees, and the rest of it's 18%, and I can go down and I can itemize it for you, but I mean that's not a big chunk at all.
I just want to jump in and remind listeners or new listeners, if you're just tuning in, that we're doing a special show today. It's the second part. We're talking about fact and fiction about being in poverty, trying to bust those myths and give you some real numbers like Jesse's sharing, and stories and information about what it's like to be in poverty, especially locally. And we want your opinions. We want your voices as well. So you can call in. The number here in the studio is 509-747-3807. Or if you're by a computer or a smartphone, you can log into Facebook and find the Orion Project Facebook page and post comments or message them there, and we'll bring your input into this discussion. And so, yeah.
Also, I was getting at was if you think you're not getting help from the government, and you're demonizing these people that are of a lower tax status than you, I'm challenging you to think things through. I'm getting this information from the Washington Post. Political scientist Suzanne Mettler. I just ran into this morning, and I intend on doing a little more research. She is quoted as food stamps and welfare checks are incredibly visible government benefits. And obviously it's going to be, a main target. She says that mortgage interest, deduction rates, Medicare benefits, tuition tax breaks are not as visible, and yet that is help from the government.
How about corporate tax breaks?
There you go.
Wowza.
Yes. Mettler's research has shown that a remarkable number of people who don't think they get anything from the government, in fact, benefit from one of these programs. Another thing that I hear is, they're all, most of them are drug addicts, and let's drug test them. Okay, well let's go over these. Let's go over this.
The states that have passed that legislation, it is costing the states about quadruple what it would be to give them the benefits, and they're getting 2% positive pops. It's costing a heck of a lot of money.
So I'm just sitting here. I'm laughing because all these actions, all these these elements of just demonizing those in poverty, it backfires on most, only because you don't sit and do the research. Okay, even to be honest with you, I've been caught in, as far as putting out wrong names and stuff like that. But it's just stopping and doing the research and figuring out the truth. That's all. That's all that matters. Once you figure out the truth, you'll understand the fact of the matter that these people, the people that we help, they need help.
You're quoting figures. I'm looking at something right now that says over 80% of SNAP households have a gross income below $23,500 a year for a family of four.
Wow.
A family of four. I mean, that's not even a college kid, their first job out of college for one person.
The drug testing and the similar programs. We rarely make similar demands of the recipients of government aid. I'm taking directly from the Washington Post. We don't do drug tests with farmers who receive agricultural subsidies. We don't require Pell Grant recipients to prove that they're pursuing a degree that will get them a real job, do we? I don't think so. My favorite is Congress, who gets paid by the American taxpayer. They do none of that.
Yeah, and they get their benefits for the rest of their life, so maybe we could drug test them for the rest of their life.
Oh. So let's talk about fair. I mean, more times than none, I hear, not everyone, okay, middle class and the wealthy. Well, it's not fair. They're draining the system. stop and think about what you're saying. That's all I'm saying. I mean, research is the key here. There's virtually no evidence that, the homeless or those in poverty, there's no evidence that I've seen, no hard concrete evidence that says that they go buy that filet mignon and lobster. And, even if they do, okay, for one, it's not going to be, a lot of money. I mean, they probably got it half off or, an old filet mignon from somewhere. Are they going to really, spend that huge chunk of that $190 or whatever that they're, that they have? Are they going to really spend that chunk on whatever, on stuff like that?
And it might be their one treat, too, of the whole entire month.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's another thing I wanted to put out. I mean,
and if they do, we don't give them more money to cover that.
if you're in poverty and, or living in the streets, I mean, whose business is it anyways? I mean, if you're getting SNAP, I've always told people this. I mean, you've paid into the program. It's a benefit, for one. Two, okay, who wants to live off of, snacks and junk food the rest of their lives? Who wants, every once in a while, okay, why not? Big deal. The notion that we all, actually, what I'm trying to get at is, like I said, virtually no evidence that they live this way. This defies Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If any of you have done any research on sociology, Maslow was a person. I will tell you right now, I did not do any research on Maslow, but I am familiar with his hierarchy of needs. It's a pyramid. Yeah. And this pyramid states, scientifically, that in order for you to, be happy or, reach that, the top of the pyramid that we all want to be, stable, you have to provide for yourself first. Okay. As far as providing yourself, for yourself first, you need food, you need water, you need shelter. Okay. So for people to say, well, they use their subsidies, they use their, their benefits for things that they don't need, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm involved in an outreach ministry with Family Faith Community Church, and we do, several different things. We do, we go downtown and we feed the homeless and we give them clothes and sleeping bags and socks and things. And one of the things that that the pastor encourages people to do is he says, to listen and show people you care, and then, just let God speak through your actions, not through your words. And it's kind of become a cliche in the outreach community that I've heard over and over, but it's so true, is, they say they have to know that you care before they care what you know, and sometimes feeding that physical need and then allowing the people to have their own opinions and go through their struggle. Maybe they're homeless, maybe they're addicted, maybe they're just in poverty. I mean, poverty is a dragon, man. I mean, if you've never experienced it, you have no idea, how it can oppress a family. The problem is you don't know the individual needs or individual situations of these people until you actually take the time to connect with them and listen and, give them the respect to hear them. The one thing that we do, I've noticed as a society, is we dehumanize people because, and it usually serves a need for us. It serves a need for us because we hit a quotient of discomfort when we start to roll around certain ideas in our head or have conversations with friends or coworkers. There's an uncomfortableness around homelessness, around poverty, around drug addiction, alcohol, around people on food stamps, around panhandlers. Because there's a conflict. If we're going to be honest, there's a conflict between our own needs and their needs. There's a lot of very ignorant statements, as Jesse has pointed out, that get made about, people with EBT cards, about people flying a sign, saying, hey, I'm hungry and homeless. But we can't just categorically say for our own convenience so that we don't have to delve into those issues in our own heart and mind. I see people just categorize and put people in a box and say, well, those are the homeless. You know, Jesus said you'll always have the poor, you know, and statements like that. And it doesn't, you know, these broad solutions like food stamps are not going to be perfect. You know, broad solutions from a centralized government have never been perfect. I mean, if you want to in a fine-grained way solve something, you have to go figure out what the individual need is. And, you know, I think if we err on the side of feeding people, is that bad? You know, if you're going to have you're always going to have a certain bad apple percentage. You know, that the people that get caught abusing whatever system we're talking about. But if we're talking about feeding people, you know, I'm okay with erring on the side of feeding a few too many people.
I've to be fair, I've seen a few, not everyone, a few people who've abused the system, and the most common one that I see is, you know, selling their EBT benefits for other things. Yeah. And okay, you know, to each his own, but I would put out that most, not all, people, I mean, they get caught. You know, they pay the price, and it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's not that huge chunk to say, oh, well, we need to change the system. I'd like to move on, and we can speak about panhandling. It's one of my favorite subjects. Yeah. Spokane is, like I said, Spokane's generous, albeit sometimes, you know, misguided. We all can be misguided. I can be misguided. Panhandling is something that's been around for a long time. And when I was in Denver, I've done a lot of work in Denver. Denver is typically hostile towards the homeless. And what I mean by hostile is that, you know, in human rights, in most human rights circles, okay, when you criminalize homelessness, okay, that's considered hostile.
Yeah.
And I mean criminalized, meaning, you know, throwing them in jail, you know, giving them tickets, you know, for panhandling. And this has been through so many courts, and I'm still waiting for it to hit the Supreme Court. There's so much. There's an exuberant amount of material going on with panhandling. Sue?
Well, and in Spokane, we have the no-sit law, where people can be ticketed and fined for sitting and sleeping on the sidewalks. But yet they can go out and stand in line for 3 days to buy a new iPhone.
Yes. Or Christmas shop and line up at 3:30 in the morning at Best Buy.
True, and I think people who have introduced this legislation say, well, the people that stand out of Walmart or the Apple Store, and I'm an Apple fan, I want that noted.
Go Apple.
That's their property, and Walmart probably is their property with the parking lots and so forth, but our Apple Store downtown is not. That's public sidewalks.
With that whole thing, human rights, coming from a human rights perspective, that's freedom of speech. I mean, that's the same thing as asking your family for money. As long as, you know, you're not out there pushing the matter of, well, you don't get me money, you know, you're a B, or you're some sort of word, or, you know, or being pushy about it. I mean, that's freedom of speech, and you know, in a public forum. I mean, unless it's on, you know, private property, that I can understand.
Yeah, I mean, who you're really hurting? You know, if I'm standing at down next to Dick's Burgers down here downtown, you know, and that's a sore point with a lot of people. If you read the newspaper, you know. The two freeway dumps into town, the two freeway off-ramps, you know, that people will stand out there and do what we call flying a sign. You know, they'll take a piece of cardboard and write hungry and homeless, anything helps, God bless you, whatever. You know, all these offensive sayings.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll hold their sign. And, you know, I was talking to my brother about this morning on the phone, and I actually have, you know, a couple different friends who, that's how I run across them. You know, back when I was homeless, I met them, and we became really good friends. And for their own reasons, and it's woundedness, it is that keeps people out there. If you think about it, there's no minor reason that a person would choose to be homeless. You can call them addicted, you can call them, lazy, you can call them what you want. You're going to be inaccurate in most cases, from my experience. But there's no small wound that keeps you outside. There's no small wound that keeps you living in a sleeping bag under the freeway. That is a person who's crying for help. The thing is, I can't rush in and fix my friends. I can't rush in and go, oh, dude, I know I found the solution. Let me share it with you. I can tell them, I can give them that option, but it's their option to go through their journey of, no, today my journey is going to be holding this sign here, asking for money. And, would, the one specific friend I'm thinking of, I'm not going to use his name out of respect for him, but, I know that, the times that I've seen him and met with him over the last couple of years, since I've been homeless, that all but 2 of those times I've given him money. And I know in his individual customized circumstance, I pretty much know that he went and got a Steel Reserve beer with that money. But that's him. That's not every person that flies a sign. That's not every person who's out there, holding a sign. They may not be homeless. Maybe they're unemployed and they can't find a job and they got 3 kids to feed at home.
I want to add real quick here. I've seen this many times on Facebook, and I've heard through others that, oh well, that person over there is he's banking on just standing in the corner asking for money. What do the nonprofits do? Okay, they ask for money. Yeah. They're probably banking, not rich. I mean, they're not getting rich, but why not? Seriously.
Or how about our firemen spill the boot?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That's allowed.
Yeah. I mean, why not? If they make that much money, okay, if they need help, okay, well, whatever. I mean, it's up to you. My personal feelings about this is it's up to you. If you want to help, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. Yeah. But they have rights as well.
They're not hurting anybody.
Yeah. Well, according to others, that it's violence. Keeping them from panhandling. It's keeping the violence away from the city, which we have either way. Yeah. And again, I mean, I want to see statistics. If you say that they're violent and all these street kids on the corner asking for cigarettes or money, they're violent, they cause trouble. Where are your statistics? I want to know. I've been looking for these statistics.
Yeah, the last violent contract killing in Spokane last year was on the South Hill in a very nice house.
There you go. Hey, there you go.
It wasn't a homeless person. There was no homelessness or addiction involved. There was just a person who was willing to do that, and a guy who was financially well off who was willing to do that.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to put is, another thing that I hear is, well, they hang out, around our business, and it keeps people away. Well, where are you basing that from? Their looks? Their smell? Well, if you stopped and, and thought about it, I mean, come on, are you human? They need help. Yeah. And, to make it illegal, I mean, I can see, having somebody inside just waiting, just, what's the term for it? Just waiting around inside, doing nothing, soliciting.
Loitering?
Loitering. There you go. I can understand that, but outside the business, in public, it's quite a few businesses that I hear from my friends on outside. Oh well, we can't sit over there because the business comes out. They run us out. They scream at us. You know what? That's just as bad as being racist. I mean, you're basing everything on how they look, their tax status. Quit demonizing them. Why not? Just stop and ask. Make it, incorporate it into your marketing. Oh well, we help out with them. We do something good for the
err on the side of compassion.
And before we get too judgmental about the people that are asking for help, let us all remember that statistics, and you love that word, statistics,
Yeah.
show that we are one paycheck away from homelessness.
Yeah,
We're not, it used to be
76%.
6 and then 3, and now we're 1. So before we get too pompous and pious, we could be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I will say a last take on the thing that we are just talking about is, in all reality, it does keep customers away. You know, there's a group of the population that it will keep away, and it is the mainstream population. It is like Joshua was talking about last time. You know,
Yeah.
people who have never been exposed to homelessness, people who have never been poor, people who have never been, you know, in any sort of situation like that, and they're afraid of it. And we are, you know, as human beings, that's what we do. We're afraid of things that are different.
Afraid
We're
of things that we don't understand.
Afraid of things that it's ignorance. That's right. But as a business owner, I mean, you have a choice. You're not just a business owner. You're a human being. You know, you're a mom, you're a dad, you're a brother, you're a sister. There's a reason that you want to keep that business flow coming in, and it's because you want to feed your kids and provide a good life for your family. Those people are people too. You know, they want a good life. And, you know, one of the things that I've seen that's beautiful around here in Spokane is the first time I've seen it is, you know, I'll go into coffee shops. The one I'm thinking of is closed now, but I've seen it on multiple occasions in multiple stores and businesses is, you know, there'll be a guy flying a sign out in front of the business, and instead of calling him names and demonizing him and threatening him with the law or threatening him physically, which I've seen all of those things, okay? Instead of that, they'll say, "Hey, man, if you go around the parking lot and you know, pick up all the trash or whatever, or collect the cans or whatever, I'll give you this much money. You know, you're scaring my customers away. You know, can we come to a compromise here?" And that person will show up every day, and they'll clean the parking lot, you know, and they'll get some money, and they'll move on somewhere else out of respect for, not for the money, but out of respect for being treated as a human being. You know, that, you know, I understand, you know, I'm not judging you, but, you know, can we work together on this? You know, and then maybe, you know, I'd like to think, you know, if it were me, I know certainly I would point them to places where they could receive some compassion. You know, they could get, you know, food or clothes or whatever their individual needs are at that moment, which I can't hammer home enough. You know, find out this dude may just be like, you know, he may be $35 to get a new ID and he could have a job. You know, he may be one piece of the puzzle away from being where he wants to be, which may be somewhere else other than flying a sign in front of your business.
There you go.
You know,
quite a few times I've seen people down here in Spokane. One of which she stands up. You know, she stands in my mind. Quite a few times she was on the corner crying and screaming. And, you know, I was walking towards her. Well, actually, not towards her. I was walking to the plaza, and it piqued my curiosity. And on my route, I seen like 3 or 4 people just pass her by. And so me and my friend, I looked at her and I said, "Okay, well, let's go see what's wrong." You know, that's all it took. All she needed was a bus pass, and she, you know, I'm sure she was dealing with something like PTSD, or she had a bad day with her significant other, but she was in her like 50s, I think. And you know, the way she was dressed,
That old?
You know, yeah. Well, the way
That's
she was
really
dressed. I mean, the way she was dressed was.
I'm just kidding, by the way.
It looked like she was, you know, on the streets. And I didn't get into it too much, but I would like to say something right now. Okay, those 3 or 4 people that passed her by, shame on you. Just shame on you. That was just completely just disrespectful. I mean, come on, really. And I've heard it said many times. Well, you know, it's not your business. Keep walking. You know how many times I've heard that, and you know, and we'll just put it in a bigger perspective rather than this. Okay, in 9/11, okay, how many people have seen something that, you know, raised red flags and did not say one word? Okay, how many times do you go by that car that broke down, and how many times do you go by and think, okay, well, somebody may have called the police, okay? And I'd like to say this: Okay? And I've run into this once or twice, okay? Could have been a person in that car, had a heart attack, the fact of the matter is, okay, if you see something wrong and you think that, it's none of your business, I can understand if it looks like your life is in danger, but either way, say something, figure it out. Another thing that I wanted to put out was a friend of mine. I haven't seen him in a while, and he told me about this, this kid on the street, and he was crying. He needed some prayer, and he asked a few people to stop and if they could pray for him. He had a meth problem, and my friend, he noticed this, and it was also told of him that the people said, well, okay, I'll pray for you. And can you pray for me now? No, I'm not going to pray for you now. We're talking about Christians. Mm-hmm. And, I'm telling you, come on. What would Jesus do? Our lives are quantified by how we treat the lesser.
Yes.
Okay? It's not quantified by how much money you have. It's not quantified by, the amount of respect you have. Try treating those below you or beneath you with respect and the dignity that you have. And we'll see how life changes for you. We'll see how much better it gets for you. Okay?
If you are just tuning in, this is KYRS. We're doing a special show about being in poverty, fact and fiction, trying to address some of those issues that a lot of you listening may not want to even think about. And we just have a couple more minutes, and so I think we're going to talk a little bit about human trafficking.
Yeah, definitely. One more thing, though, for all you advocates out there who have a heart for what I'm saying, I challenge you to do the research and challenge City Hall. And what I mean by challenge City Hall is call them out on their little lies, call them out on their disrespect, their, the statistics that, they bring out of thin air. Call them out. Call them out, and I will tell you right now, that is the best way that I've seen that changes minds.
Yeah,
Okay.
Participate and share your voice.
Yeah.
Go find out where the city council meets. Most people don't know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I will definitely post that on Orion.
They meet at City Hall Monday nights at 6:00.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Sarah here, she has not had any time to talk, and she indicated to me that she wanted to talk about, what's been on her heart lately. She's a very extremely intelligent individual, and she's been manning the phones, and unfortunately we had no one call in, but that's okay. But we told her that we would give her 10 minutes of your time and our time to speak about something that, that's really bothered her. It's bothered me, and I think it warrants a shout out.
What I'm going to talk about is human trafficking, and I've been researching this for the past year, maybe year and a half, and what I found is Spokane has a huge problem with human trafficking, and a big part of that is sex trafficking, which a lot of people think the prostitutes, just in general, they choose to be out there. They choose to do this, and they're paid. They don't get hurt. They get their money and they go home. Well, the problem with that is, that's completely untrue. For one, these women, even if they choose to do it in the beginning, they end up, the pimps, they get them addicted to drugs. They force them to take drugs, and they end up addicted to it. So, they have to do what they have to do to feed that high. And Spokane has, and this was a study done back in a few years ago, the Spokane had, on any given night, about 500 prostitutes. And that Spokane is really small, so that's a huge number. And I mean, these women have children that they're trying to feed, or the pimps got them addicted to something. And I mean, it goes along with the homeless population, because people don't want to see this. You don't want to see the woman out walking on the street selling her body for, a few dollars, when sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's a hard topic.
I just completely lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fine. Sarah, she's been schooling me on the subject, and I know that she feels really deep about it, and she has trouble with it sometimes, as far just because I mean it's a very deep subject, and I've read some horrible things online, and something that sticks out in my mind right now is the amount of people out there who do the child abductions. And I've seen this many times, as far as in the news, and it scares me, because I have 3 kids. It scares the holy heck out of me. There are people out there who are sick, and who are on the prowl or on the search for our children out there. And these are predators. And for whatever reason, they want these children for whatever their nefarious purposes. I think it's incredibly sick. You go to Walmart, you see all these postings of missing children. Good God, man, my heart just drops for these people, for these families. And you have to stop and wonder if they're still alive.
Yeah.
The statistics say that once they get taken or recruited, there's like a 24-hour window. I think it's a 24-hour window. Is it a 24-hour?
The research I've done, I haven't come across a certain amount of hours, but I think 24 hours is right. I know every hour that they're gone, it lessens the chance that they'll ever be seen again, or that they'll be found alive.
Significantly.
Yeah, that's just, that's another thing. We see postings like that of missing children. You see them at Walmart, you see them on Facebook, you see them, especially down at the plaza if you use the transportation center here in Spokane. And some of them are, nicely made up from organizations, from the police department or whatever. And some of them are just copies from printers at home, that parents are just looking for their children. And, that's just one more thing, how we can dehumanize that, whether it be, children, whether it be, women who are in sex trafficking, whether it be people flying a sign, people in poverty, people on SNAP benefits. It's easy to look at that and make the decision in your heart and mind to not deal with it, to just put it in a convenient little box. Like, those people are there for whatever reasons, and I don't need to consider that, what could I do about it, or, who are they?
Yeah. I'm sorry I had to step out. We had a caller. Thank you so much for calling. And he was just listening to our conversation and, really feeling what we were talking about. Right. And, he was thinking that the economy is getting worse and worse. There's less options. Everything's getting tighter. And he was just sharing that his perspective is that when people walk by somebody who's maybe sitting on the street or flying a sign, that maybe it's just too close to what they fear could happen to themselves, that they can't look.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really interesting perspective. So thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Go.
I mean, for me, I know what it's like to be just a paycheck away. I mean, to be, you get paid, every month, and you make every single penny, go for something. And, I mean, at the end of the month, you're still, there's something that doesn't get paid. There's something that you have to sacrifice that you can't get. And, you see that person on the street, and it terrifies you, because you know that, something happens, someone makes one decision, and your income is gone, your home is gone, everything.
Yeah.
For those of you who are one paycheck away, or today you're looking for a job, or you're scared that you're gonna lose everything tomorrow, you're not alone. You're not alone. I've been there. I'm sure everyone has been there once or twice. You're not alone. Don't give up. Okay, I would tell you to stop, take a breather. Life is not ending for you. Do your research on the resources out there. I would tell you to go see someone at HUD Vash, SNAP. Make a phone call. Ask.
Yeah,
and
ask
if you have,
people
Yeah, definitely. If you have any questions, post it on the Orion Project. I would love to answer your question. We would love to answer your questions, but it's not the end of the world. I know that desperation can be there. 7-Eleven's down the street. All I have to do is, pretend I have a gun, rob it. I just need that much money to keep going for one more month, to keep my kid from, starving, from us being on the street. Don't give up. Mm-hmm. Okay, that is the biggest thing that can kill you. Seriously, can kill you. That can drown you. Is when that moment comes up and you decide on giving up. Don't give up.
Yeah, we talked last time about how the root of a lot of these was hopelessness.
Yeah.
And that it's kind of a universal thread in them. And I am a Christian. I am one of those Christians who will pray at the moment. By the way, with everybody.
Homelessness is not hopeless.
Yeah,
I got that from a good friend on Facebook, and it's not hopelessness. It's not the end of the world. Okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time yet again. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you.
Hopefully we'll bring you guys back and we can keep talking. So thank you so much for tuning in. This was part 2 of Fact and Fiction about being in poverty with the Orion Project. You can find them on Facebook, the Orion Project. And let's keep this conversation going. Write in, share your stories. Let's make this a conversation statewide, nationwide. I think the caller that we had is totally right that these problems aren't going away anytime soon. If anything, they might get worse. So we need to have some open conversation like we have today about these issues. This is KYRS, Medical Lake Spokane, 88.1 and 92.3 FM.